welcome to How to Deal When the Shit Gets Real podcast. I'm Rietta.
And I'm Patty, and today we are here with Megan. So Megan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I am a Marine spouse. My husband and I have been together for 5 years. We have 3 kiddos. One is on the spectrum. I'm a small business owner. I just finished my AA and am pursuing special education. And we currently live in Hawaii.
Ooh, lovely. In the same place as Rietta.
Yes.
Yes, that's how I met Megan. She is the most amazing baker ever.
Ooh.
If you ever come to Hawaii, you'll have to try.
I did. Rietta, what the fuck?
I know. I knew that was going to happen once you said you.
Again.
Probably not, but I missed my chance, I guess.
I knew once you said that she was going to be like, what the hell?
Oops.
Whoopsie. It's fine. It's fine. I'll just blame Rietta. It works out that way.
If I can ever figure out how to ship cupcakes and cakes with them like totally melting into mush or molding with like the unreliable, like post service things that should be like 2 days or like a week. So, you might get the cake, but you might not be able to eat the cake.
Yeah. And that would totally defeat the purpose.
That's about it. Dry ice and fast shipping. And that's called too much money.
Yes. It's like $80. I had somebody that was like, I'll totally pay. And I was like, all right, like I'll look for you. And to get it to North Carolina from here, it was gonna be like $80 in shipping. And I was like, I can't in good faith even make that for you. Like, that's just ridiculous. She's like, yeah, you're right. That's too much. I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
Next
that's
time.
a lot.
That's a lot of money.
Come to Hawaii and have some.
Right. Come to Paradise and I'll make you cakes. Like, that's super easy, right?
And that's a win-win. Paradise and cake? Yes, please.
Boom.
Really?
And since we're talking about your baking, I've always wondered this anyway. What is your favorite thing to bake?
My favorite thing. So I started this like tradition. It only became a tradition after. So when my husband first came home from a deployment, we were just dating and I made like a chocolate cake with peanut butter chips baked into it. And then a chocolate icing with peanut butter trim.
Yum.
And so that has become like my signature thing that like I make when he comes home from deployments. And our actual wedding, because we got married at the courthouse in Jacksonville later that week, I made that cake and we had that. And so that's become like our cake. So that's probably my favorite.
Oh my God. That sounds amazing. And I love this. Yeah. I love the story behind it.
It's like diabetes in a cake form, but like super sweet.
It
super
also
sweet
sounds
story.
Just like a delicious Reese's.
Yes. It's like a giant 3-layer Reese.
Exactly. I'm about
Delicious.
that.
Yeah. Everybody loves Reese's.
Surprisingly, my kid doesn't, but I'm thinking that'll change at some point in his life.
Well, I can kind of understand that because sometimes I'm just like, it's not an even. I need an even ratio of chocolate to peanut butter. And sometimes it's too much peanut butter.
Listen, the holiday Reese's are where it's at. I don't know what they do differently. They swear they do nothing differently, but I'm telling you, those Easter eggs and those Christmas trees and pumpkins, man, like spot on ratio wise, like they're perfect.
I wonder if it's because they're smaller. Like all the ones I've seen are smaller. They're not as big as the regular.
Yeah, I don't know. They do something. Those are the perfect ones.
Reese's, you owe us an explanation.
Right?
Let us know.
Hashtag Reese's.
So do you bring like your kids in to help you bake?
Yeah, so I just do it out of my home. So I taught myself when I was 16. So that's like 14 years ago now. So yeah. But I was just at Walmart. I love art. I went to college for art initially. I was just on the, painting aisle and I was like, oh, cake stuff. That looks kind of fun. Why not? Let's try it for fun. Made the cake from scratch. It was god awful. Like it was horrible. If I ever find the picture, I'm trying so hard to find it just so I can like have it. It was terrible, but I entered it into like a fair for my home ec class in high school. And I really just liked the whole process. Like I saw all the cakes like at the stores and on like Cake Boss. And I'm like, I want to make those. Like those look amazing. So I started teaching myself YouTube videos, like all of the things, just trying my own recipes. And I started working professionally at one of our hometown bakeries. It's called Publix. If you're from the South, you know what that is.
I worked at the Jewel equivalent of the same thing. So I get you.
Yeah. So like I started working at Publix and like learned up all the trades with them, like how you make ganache and how to do like certain portion sizes, how to use simple syrup to make things sweeter. And so I learned like tricks and trades from them. And then, I moved up with my husband in 2017, and I was pregnant with my middle child. And, cost of daycare and everything like that, we weren't really sure how we were going to afford it. So I started, baking again and doing some orders, nothing major in North Carolina. But then once we got to Hawaii, like the market here is just incredible because we're on the east side. So we're not by all the touristy stuff. Like Kailua does have some touristy stuff. Like it's a nice little destination. It's got Lani Kai, but there's not like custom cake decorating stuff. You've got your Safeway, which is like just a grocery store like chain, and they'll make stuff. You've got Walmart and stuff like that, but there's not a high like market on this end. Yeah. So especially on base, because nobody wants to travel 30, 45 minutes, maybe with traffic to go pay, like the market over there is like hundreds of dollars just for small cakes. Which, I mean, it does get costly, but the market here is just amazing. Like I've told my husband, if we could just like stay here so I can keep making the profits and building my business, because Hawaii has been incredible for my business. I'm a little hesitant on moving to the next duty station because we're going to be recruiting. So there's not even going to be like a base to really be around. So I'm kind of hesitant on how it's going to impact the business. So I'm going to just take full advantage of it while we're here for the next year.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, I've got 21 orders on the books for July. I have 3 markets in the books for July. I have my first, because we're coming out of COVID here in Hawaii now, we're opening up more. I have my first 3-tiered wedding cake next month. Ooh. So yeah, I'm excited.
So do your kids, I think I missed it. Do your kids help or did we trail off from that?
Oh, I think we might have trailed off.
That's okay. It happens.
So they help with taste testing. That's their
of course.
That's like their title. They hear my mixer, my stand mixer, and they know I'm making icing. So like all the kids run into the kitchen and like go immediately to the silverware drawer and like hold spoons. And they're like, hello, mom. Like, come on. It's icing time. Oh yeah. Like my 2 little ones, like my daughter, I could be like, Kyra, like wait until I'm done. You can have some. But my boys, like there's no reasoning with them. They're just like, hello, I know the sound. Give me the good stuff. So
give me the sugar direct into my veins, please.
For real. Like they just like want spoons full of it. And I'm like, God, this is terrible for you. But they do. They know the sound every time without fail. The second it goes on, doesn't matter if they're upstairs, doesn't matter if they're outside playing in the patio, they will like run to the kitchen.
They're like dogs with a dog whistle. It's like,
yeah.
What? Where?
Yes.
I know it's what's going on. We're going. I want this. Let's go.
Yep. They've been like subconsciously trained, like the sound equals icing.
That's Pavlov dog's theory for you right there.
There you go. I was trying to think of it. I couldn't think of the name. I was like, dang, I know this.
So you kind of touched on it a little already, but what are some of the extra challenges with running a business and being a military spouse and having your kids at home and all those wonderful things?
Yeah. So I started my business back up right around November of last year because I had done it when we first got here and it hadn't quite taken off as I wasn't doing too much just because immediately after we got here within like 2 months, my husband deployed. So, I mean, like, I didn't want to take on that extra challenge after just moving 5,000 miles away. Husband's gone. I have 2 kids. Found out, like naturally 2-3 weeks after my husband left, surprise, I'm pregnant with baby number 3. So like, I really didn't want to take that extra challenge on only because prior to my 3rd kiddo, we had just miscarried. So I really didn't want to like put too much on me. So I guess the challenge now started back up again in November, only as like a fundraiser. My brother-in-law unfortunately passed away. So I was trying to like raise some money to help the family with like cost of expenses for funeral and cremation and all that. Cause I couldn't go home with my kids, unfortunately, because of COVID. I couldn't put all of us on a plane. So I tried to do what I could from here. So through those bake sales, like I had people coming back saying, I really like this. This is awesome. Like, do you take custom orders? And I was like, yeah. So it slowly grew from November until like March. And then it just like took off with markets and all sorts of stuff, which at the time, my husband has been home. So it was easier because, the challenges are I can't bring my kids to the markets because my kiddos are not going to sit still in like a section for like 5-6 hours and not need attention. So, it's really hard to do that. So thankfully he was home and like, able to help with the kids for the markets and things like that and like take them out to the park or whatever, if I'm really busy with orders to kind of like give me some focus time to nail out the orders. But now that he's gone, he's been gone for a little over a month. So it has provided some new challenges because, I'm full-time mom, dad, small business owner, therapy driver for my son, both sons, actually, they both have therapy. We start school in less than 3 weeks. So it's going to be a lot of adjustments and things. So it'll be an interesting, next 5 months until dad comes home.
It's always a challenge during deployment, I swear. And there's always extra ones that have to be tossed in there.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Can't. It's Murphy's Law. Just patiently waiting. Let's knock on some wood.
We seriously should have our own Murphy's Law. There should just be Murphy's Law of deployment. Like we should have our own.
Oh yeah. Within like 2 to 4 weeks, normally it like totally hits the fan, and it hasn't yet.
Well, knock on wood, it doesn't.
Yeah, really.
Knocked on it twice. We'll see how it goes. But yes, my grandmother has come into town to help with the kids for a little bit. So that is extremely nice to have. Nobody's met my youngest son with COVID. He was born August 2019, and we didn't get to go home for Christmas that year. My husband had gone on a 2-month field op right after my son was born. He came home right at the end of like November. Christmas came, and then COVID hit. So like nobody's been able to really meet my son. So it was a really nice kind of reunion because it had been a couple years, and she got to meet the baby. So it's really nice to have another adult in the house and be able to go to the grocery store and grab 2 things without having crying hands, like trying to reach for the cookies and, I need this, I want that. And yeah. So it's nice to have her here.
You mentioned earlier that your one son, wow, I can't even talk today. It's cool. Your one son is autistic. What tools and tricks you use to help him the most?
So the best thing that we have right now was his visual board. So we tried that around 18 months, but he wasn't interested because he didn't have that understanding of the picture gets me the actual thing. Mm-hmm. So it became a very frustrating tool. So we kind of put that away. He kind of developed his own words and like signs for certain things like we were able to understand. And that was like our bare minimum communication up until about May of last year when his ABA center opened back up and he was able to start going full time again. And we've been working, very heavily on communication, those visual cues and things like that. His visual board has become a lifesaver. We've done like visual schedules. It's easy. You just take like little icons and make his little schedule. Like, okay, morning time, we get out of bed, we get dressed, we brush our teeth, eat breakfast, go to school. He's become so structured with that. We've done it so much. Like he knows the routine to where we don't really have to even use that anymore. And we don't even have to use like, okay, it's lunchtime. Here's, 5 things on your board, pick which one. Like he can easily just like go to the fridge and grab it and ask for help. Or he can say, mommy, eat. And then, I want fries. I want chicken nuggets. I want, whatever it is. He can communicate that now. He's a whole different kid than he was a year ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a journey.
So on the visual board, are you literally like cutting a cookie and putting it on there? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So Google, I Googled things. So like I'd Google basic, like, a pack of Oreos and whatever. I'd like put them on like a Word document and then I'd print them out at like the UPS store and have them laminate it and then cut them out with some Velcro on the back. And we just like made boards. They do sell like generic kits on Amazon. I think we never really looked hard into those just because we figured it was easier to like make our own because we're going to have to customize it to Jackson anyway. So it was just easier to make our own.
Can you tell us a little bit about his autism issues he has and stuff?
Yeah. So I noticed probably around 12 months that something was a little off. Not like hardcore signs, but all of his physical milestones he hit like head on or just before. But communication, like he didn't have any. He was always like in his own world and things like that. Right around 15 months, I started addressing it with the doctor. She's like, yeah, we'll see. It's too early to tell. 18 months, he was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder. So he just couldn't regulate properly, things like that. He had issues with textures, like he wouldn't put shoes on. He didn't want to be in the grass, just different little textural issues. By 2, it was incredibly, like, it was obvious, like he was autistic. Within a month of him turning 2, because they can't really test until after 2, he was diagnosed autism spectrum level 3 because I don't know exactly. The way they do it now is 1, 2, and 3. So 3 is like the highest level. You need the most services is the way they've kind of redone it now. So 2 would be intermediate. And then 1 would be, you don't need too many services. Like you can do age appropriate things without much intervention. So he was 3. He had no words. He had no signs, like to communicate, no eye contact, wouldn't respond to his name, things like that. So we started with Easter seals, Kailua, because he was aged out at 3, but up until 3, you can do that. Then we started the process for ABA. We also do speech and occupational therapy and physical therapy. We have about 25-ish hours of therapy a week. It's like a part-time job just for him.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a journey, but he's a whole new kid from when we first got that diagnosis. Before, he would not be able to regulate and communicate. So he was banging his head on the walls or on the floors, or just like full blown, like the worst case scenario in your head. You take your kid to the grocery store and he's like all over the floor flopping out. And you're just like, oh, wow, that's a bad kid. Like, get yourself unfortunately, that was just, he couldn't regulate. There was an instance during COVID, and I say this frequently, I thought COVID would bring out compassion in people, and it brought the worst out in people, at least in multiple experiences I've had. So the state was 5 and up, but base said 2 and up had to wear masks. And my son won't tolerate a mask. We've been trying since the beginning of the pandemic to get him. He can't accept it. So trying to go into the commissary, we had people stopping us saying, oh, you can't have him in here. He has to wear a mask. And it's like, he's autistic. I have his diagnosis paperwork on my phone. Like, I'm just trying to get groceries. Like, I'm not trying to cause a problem. Ridiculous.
Can you leave me alone?
Yeah. Like, you're harassing me over a mask. It's ridiculous. And then, there was a point in time towards the beginning of the pandemic, he got very overwhelmed. He can easily get overwhelmed, like just day-to-day activities. Like, he hears something, it's just too much commotion, whatever it is. He's not always able to verbalize it. And so he can't regulate. He starts freaking out. And it looks just like a toddler tantrum. Like, I just don't want to be a good kid, but that's not what happened. And I had to abandon my cart and surfboard style carry my one son while holding the other one, trying to get out of the store with all these people eyeing me like I'm just the worst mother in the world, because he is just having a meltdown, right next to the meat aisle, which I know Rieta knows exactly the way the commissary is set up. So we're on the back of the store. We're not even near the front. We're in the back of the store. He's melting down. I'm trying to hold him and comfort him. He can't communicate to me what's wrong. All these people are just staring at me. And I'm just like, all right, I will grocery shop later. We don't even need this stuff right now. This isn't a big deal. I'm not going to put myself through it, him through it. And I'm not going to take the stairs anymore. So surfboard style carrying out, just totally mortified, heartbroken, and waiting to basically make the base page, because petty things get put on the base page. So I was scoping trying to see if anybody was making comments, because the mama bear in me was ready to go to war. Yeah. So it's been interesting. He's much better. He can communicate now. I know the cues. I've learned when things to expect those situations. So we try to avoid them, but it has proven really difficult, because unfortunately a lot of people don't understand autism. They hear the word and they're like, oh, and that wall already goes up. They've already got these preconceived notions about what to expect. So it's been really hard to find friends that understand that and want to hang out with me and my family, because, Jackson can sometimes be a lot, and it's heartbreaking because he's only 3. So the rest of his life, he's already got to deal with this at 3. And this is going to be a lifelong battle for him through school and adulthood and everything. So, I wish more people understood autism, and that it's not this big, huge thing. It's just they learn different, they react different, and it's not being a bad child. They're not trying to be a certain way. It's not that scary. So
yeah. It's just a reminder too that you never know what's going on in someone else's world, and you should be sharing with kindness, because you don't know what's going on.
Exactly.
You're not a bad mom. It was just, he was having a moment.
Yeah. And everybody has moments, whether you're autistic or not. Everybody has it. I have them all the time, and I'm an adult. You just get overwhelmed, and it's I can't do this right now. And you snap, and then you're like, okay, I should have done that. This is easier than I thought. Everybody has those moments. I just wish people would give more grace than they do, because people are very quick to judge.
Well, what would you tell people that maybe would help them understand autism more?
I guess just lead with kindness. Don't assume, the toddler in the grocery store is being bad because, he doesn't want to listen to mom or he wants this or that. Just say, hey, you're doing a great job. Can I help you? Something as simple as that goes a long way. Like I've had people tell me in the middle of the aisle, like, you're doing a great job. And I've just like started crying and like, oh my God, thank you. Like, you don't know how much I needed that. Like,
Aw.
thank you for understanding. And then, other times we've had people, like if they give my son something, it's like, oh, say thank you. And it's like, I'm sorry, he doesn't communicate. Like, thinking like he's just being rude. Oh, where's your manners? You're supposed to thank you. And it's like, he can't communicate. So, like I've even seen memes, like things on Halloween, like, when people are trick-or-treating, like the kids may not always say thank you. It's because they're speech delayed or they can't talk. So it's just, I guess, those preconceived notions of how kids should act at certain ages, giving grace where kids may not be able to, whether it's autism or any sort of special needs or delay. They're just kids. It's not the end of the world. And acting a certain way and judging the parents just isolates them further.
So basically not assuming the worst.
Yeah, like don't assume the worst. And, just remind parents, we could all use them. Just like, hey, you're doing a great job. I see you. I support you. What can I do? Like that goes so much farther than people realize. Even if the mom is like, oh, I've got it. Thank you. But that means a lot. Like just that little bit of support right there can really make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Just parent
Honestly,
life ain't easy.
Honestly, it's like a life lesson because even if it's not a kid and it's just an adult being a jerk, just let it go. It's fine. Be nice. Why do you gotta be so mean?
In that moment, like,
yeah,
it'll get better. It's okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, that's a great point. And that's why I wanted to ask. I'm always looking for ways to help, but sometimes I don't know. I don't know how to help. Tina's one of my really good
Podcast.
friends, and
Yeah,
I try to help
Jack.
where I can, but I don't always know how to help, even though I know Jack pretty well. Like there are still things that I don't know. And so I always try to ask her. I'm like, okay, what can I do? What can I do differently? Because it's okay to say that you don't know.
Yeah.
Well, adults have that problem. Nobody likes to say, I don't know.
Exactly. Nobody wants to ask for help.
Yep. Or even give help on occasion.
Depends on the
That's
person.
fair too.
So what advice would you offer other mothers and fathers of autistic children?
To ask for help. Even though that's like the last thing that we want to do, it's to ask for help, whether it's, talking to your child's doctor and saying, hey, do you know any resources? Like, is there a parent support group? I started a group here on base after a mom was like bashed on the base page because they had gone to the park and the kids destroyed the park. There was stuff everywhere. Her son had gotten a hold of something and put it in his mouth. And she's like, he could have choked. This isn't okay to even destroy like the property, like learn to take care of your kids, watch your kids. And people were just like bashing her, like, oh, well, watch your son, telling us to watch our kids, watch your kid. And it's like, he's autistic. He didn't know it was a split second thing. Like it happens fast, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
Just be mindful of your kids. So I made a group for autistic parents to just kind of like, I need help watching my kid on this day because I can't take them to a doctor appointment, or I'm struggling with TRICARE to get services on this. Where have you guys found, the best results? So just kind of finding other families in the same situation and like clinging to each other to just be that support. I think that's probably the best thing that you could do because not everybody understands, but other autism families will.
Find your people.
That's the best because I had to find those and then like make my own with this group. Nobody I knew had autism, even my family, like there's so things that they don't quite understand about it. My grandmother is here, but I tell everybody, I was like, I don't think you guys are really prepared for Jackson. And I say that in the nicest way, like not like he's a bad kid, like he's going to destroy everything, but he is a lot. From the moment he wakes up until he falls asleep at night, he goes 24/7. He is constant. And, he screams and runs around, but the screams aren't, being bad. He's just like, he's excited. And like, that's just him. But it can be a lot for somebody that's not used to that. But like, that's our daily life. Like, it doesn't even faze me anymore.
I remember that one day I saw you out on the playground. Megan was on the playground, and like all she was doing was just just chasing Jackson around.
Because he's just running. Like he sees kids playing basketball and he's like, oh, I want to do that. And he sees kids on the scooter and he's trying to be on the scooter. He sees kids climbing the monkey bar area and he's like, oh, I want to do that. Like he goes, like he is so full of energy. If I could have like a fraction of that, I think I would be much better off through my day.
Yeah, he was just zooming all over the place. And then he saw the dog and he wanted to lay on the dog and he was loving life.
That's what sparks my like looking into the service dog was that day right there. Like I had no idea that service dogs for autism even existed. But like after seeing him and repeatedly, like after that day, like he's just so calm around dogs. Like I have a friend who has two bigger, like I think they're black labs, but he's
and that's
just
what
so
that was.
Yeah. And he's just so calm and regulated and just wanted to like lay and cuddle the dog. And I was like, oh my gosh, like if this is something I can find for him and get him, like, so be it. Like, I'll make it happen. Unfortunately, I mean, we could just get a normal pet dog and it might have helped, but autism dogs are specifically trained to do like deep compression and like stand on their back, their legs and like apply that deep pressure. They can be trained to sense like certain cues, like when the kid is going to be overstimulated and how to calm them down and like nuzzle up next to them. So that's what really started me on this journey for him to find an autism dog, was seeing how regulated he was with certain dogs around base and friends. I looked at emotional support route, but unfortunately those are so over abused with people. Yeah. They've kind of lost their credibility. So, it's $16,500 for the service dog alone.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That doesn't include the plane fare to get home. We found a dog right around our hometown, like 2 hours southeast, but there's no dogs on island for autism. It's mobility dogs. So, it was an interesting trying to find a service dog center that accommodated my son, then the wait lists. And there's some places that want the child to be like 10. And it's like, well, by that point, how much help is that? Because the kids are already set in those ways, right. Wouldn't the earlier the intervention, like the better progress for the child. So it was, difficult to find somebody that would work with us, being far away and not being able to come and train every weekend and all these things. So we found a really great center. It's called Canines for Hope. It's in Florida. So Jason and his wife run the place. They breed the dogs, they raise them from birth and train them. And our dog will be ready in December. So I've been using my business and fundraising and doing everything I can to try and raise money so that it's not a full out-of-pocket expense.
Yeah. And if any of our listeners would like to donate to Megan's cause, there is going to be a link in the listing area that you guys can go click on and donate whatever you'd like to help support Jackson and Megan on their journey to get him a service dog.
Oh, thank you guys.
Of course. I hope it gets you even just one person.
Yeah, anything helps at this point. Unfortunately, a lot of grants have been run out because of COVID, or a lot of service dog funds are for our veterans, which like 100% behind. But a lot of people think, oh, there's service dog funds. A lot of them are for our military service members.
Yeah. I'll have to ask my girlfriend to see if she has any resources. She got a service dog for a different reason. Her daughter is diabetic. So she got a diabetic dog, but maybe she still because they're a military family as well. So maybe she still knows some resources of ways to help you raise money. So I'll have to ask her because they did the same thing. Yeah. I remember her raising money to get her daughter a diabetes dog.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'll take all the help I can get.
That's what
hopefully
we do,
this
right?
podcast.
Yeah. Hey. And if anybody's ever in Hawaii and wants cupcakes,
But only if you donate. If you don't donate, don't ask for cupcake. Gosh darn it.
But seriously, guys, Megan's cupcakes are amazing.
So if you won $10 million in the lottery, what would you do with it?
Wouldn't that be a dream?
I know. You would get that dog.
Yeah. Hey. I'd get the dog. Let's start there. The debt would be paid off. Boom. Debt free. College funds for the kids done.
Oh yeah.
helping family a little bit done. And then me and my husband, he could
Vacation.
retire. He could like leave the military right now. Like he wouldn't even have to get to the 20. Like we could just bounce, say goodbye to the Marine Corps, go build a house. We want to live like in the mountains in like either Tennessee or North Carolina, just like build a house and like live our lives. And just, yeah, that would be amazing. I could like build my own bakery.
Yeah.
There we go.
In like a small town in the mountains, like books are set in, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, those like little mountain towns with the one bakery.
Would your little bakery still have the same name, or would you give it some like fancy French name?
Oh no, it would 100% still be Sugar Spice and All Things Iced, because it literally took me hours. Like it
think
took
of it
me forever to think of it. Like I remember sitting in my kitchen in Lejeune and just being like, what am I going to call this? Like trying to make my business page. And I'm like, what am I going to call this? Like Megan's Bakery is like, no, I can't do that. Like it needed something to be like amazing. And I was like, Sugar Spice and All Things Nice. No. And I kept going back to that. And I'm like, I have to be able to make that somewhere. And then like, it literally just like light bulb. And I was like, oh my God, Sugar Spice and All Things Iced. And like, that has been it since day one.
Love it.
Yeah,
I love
it's a great name.
Perfect.
It's a great name. I love it too.
And thank you. And I'm slowly like working into the All Things Ice, because originally it was just like cupcakes and cakes. Now I'm doing like cookies. My best selling thing right now is cookie sandwiches. I know if Rietta, I think Rietta's had one maybe.
I brought it for Jackson and he devoured it. I actually, I tried to take a picture of him to send to you, and it was gone.
It was
gone.
like one bite. It's 2 chocolate chip cookies with icing in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, that's my best seller right now. So like I'm working on cookies. I'm going to maybe try macarons. Those are hard. Those are depending on like temperature and humidity. Like those are special. Those might get put off for a little bit, but like I'm starting to make like breakfast stuff. My last market, I did like brunch items. I did donuts. I did muffins. So I'm slowly working.
You forgot the best thing. She did cinnamon buns.
I did do cinnamon rolls, and I even on Instagram, I called Cinnabon out. I was like, Cinnabon, you better step up your game. They didn't reply to me. So maybe this podcast, they'll hear me now. They are really, really good. It's like just a flaky cinnamon roll, but the icing is like a cream cheese maple frosting. And it's so heavenly. It's heavenly.
Well, and honestly, like Cinnabon is just, it's too much. So it's a lot.
Is a lot of, yes.
It's just a lot in general.
So agreed. I want to hear what your thoughts on what the best and worst parts of being a military spouse are.
Does this go back to my husband's command?
Sure. Absolutely.
Just like block them on the podcast. No, I'm just kidding. The best thing personally, I think, is like how much self-confidence I've gained. Because I don't think a lot of people get to leave their hometown. A lot of people like are born and die in the same spot. And the best advice I can give to people is to figure out how to get out of your hometown and like literally run away. Because the best thing that's happened to me is leaving, because I've had to figure it out. I didn't have family in Lejeune. Like I had a baby alone. Like my husband was there. My daughter was there. That's it. I didn't have my mom and dad to come and watch the baby while I slept. Like it was me. I had to figure it out with my husband, like figuring that out. 5,000 mile, cross country across the Pacific Ocean move. I had to figure that out. We got here and a month later, I lost a baby. Again, had to figure that out alone with 2 kids already. My husband was about to leave on a deployment. So, I mean, like the best thing that happened to me, like experience wise, is being able to gain self-confidence. Like I can do this. Like I don't need to have all these people around me. Like it's super nice to have that support circle. Don't get me wrong. Like definitely have a support circle, but being able to understand that I can do it alone is just like such a confidence boost for me. The worst part, let's see, there's probably like a way longer list for that one. I guess here we go. The worst part is military medicine, because Rietta knows my journey currently with that. I've been having some health issues with like headaches and like heart and cardiology, like neurology, all the things, right? And since October, and my doctors haven't been listening to me. I've changed doctors. I've tried seeing specialists. I've tried fighting to get referrals, all of the things. I finally got my neurology referral after fighting for like 6 months for it, to see a neurologist who literally retired the next day, didn't tell me he was retiring, and basically said I was fine. So it has been an interesting, journey with that. Aside from that, I'd say, I guess, just like, you don't get to be by your family. So like, I've missed my sister's wedding. I've missed the birth of my nephew, things like that. Like, those are hard. They've missed the birth of my kids. They've missed birthdays. There's, the majority of my family, again, hasn't met the baby. So, I mean, like, that part kind of sucks too.
Are you on Prime for medical?
Maybe you can't switch to Select until open enrollment.
Oh, they changed it. You used to be able to do it whenever. I would definitely say get on Select when you can, because I could also just be lucky, but I have no complaints medical wise, but I've been on Select the entire time my husband's been in. So
yeah, we did Prime because, like, we didn't really think anything of it. Like, I've never really had health issues, so it's never been a problem, but we have just repeatedly hit roadblock after roadblock with K-Bay as far as their doctors and getting referrals. So as soon as it's open, but I mean, that's not until I think October. So I've still got like 3 months of trying to get something figured out and make headway until then.
Yeah, that's very frustrating. And for those listening, just to clarify, for a simple explanation, Prime is basically our version of HMO and Select is our version of basically PPO, just to make it very generalized.
Yep. Oh. So unfortunately, I can't self-refer. Basically, I can't just go and say, I want to go to this doctor. I have to go through military care to get a referral. And if I don't get that referral, I'm basically SOL.
Yikes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you mentioned your miscarriage, and one was while your husband was off training. So how did you handle going through that, and who did you lean on?
Yeah, so that baby was actually my third miscarriage. So it was really hard because I just felt like, my body kept failing me and my husband. And it was just really awful because we had just found out after we moved here that I was pregnant with the third baby. And then he left August 28th. And on August 31st, I had been kind of cramping. And I was nervous, because I'd been through this before. So I was like, okay, just breathe, try and work it out. I took the kids to Tripler just to get checked because I started having some spotting. And, I waited there with the two kids because my husband was gone. And, I didn't have anybody. We just moved here. I didn't really know anybody. I had messaged one spouse that I had met. I had made her wedding cake and I literally didn't have anybody else. I was like, hey, like, I am super sorry to even ask this. I was like, but can you come sit up with me? Because I, might have to have some tests done. I don't have anybody to watch my kids. My husband's gone. So she did come sit up with me and help. But, I got the news that I was losing the baby at like 12. Well, I think it was 10-ish weeks. I was losing the baby with my two kids in the room, and I'm trying to keep it together because like my daughter was super excited. We were going to have another baby brother or sister. So like, she's like, Mom, what's wrong with the baby? And like, I'm trying to keep it together. And it was just, it was like incredibly hard. Like I did not keep it together at all. Like, it was just so hard. I did not keep it together because, my husband had just left. This is another baby that I had lost. My daughter is like right here. And I'm trying so hard to not let her understand because I didn't really want to have that conversation right then and there. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I did. So that was really rough because they said I was hemorrhage, like the baby had a hemorrhage and like there was not a chance. And it was just a matter of time. So I think that was the hardest part, was just like, no matter what I did, there was no way to fix it. And, it wasn't my first time around with this. And I just felt like I was failing, like as a woman, as a mother, like as a wife, like all of it. I just, kind of withdrew into myself and kind of like hated myself for it. My husband's command had found out, and thankfully they sent him home. Actually, they sent him home within a few days of me going to the hospital. So he was able to come home and help me through that process. But it was rough. Yeah. I mean, it was a strain on us because, he was naturally not even mad about like the miscarriage, but he was upset the timing because it was his first big field op in the battery. Like we had just gotten there, like he was in charge and he was supposed to do this. And like, they have like this, like game face, basically, like it's time to go. It's time to deploy. Like emotions are gone. Like they miss the family, sure, but like they have a mission, they have things they're supposed to do. So like he was in that mode and he had to get like pulled from it. And he felt like, you know, there might be repercussions as far as like the Marines might not respect him, or, oh, like he's already left and he just got here. So like that face value kind of, you know, impact of him having to leave on a, you know, 2-month field op, you know. But I mean, everybody was nationally understanding. Some of the wives put together like a meal train and made dinners for us, checked on us. So, I mean, it was just really nice. There was a very good sense of community. I did meet some amazing people, some people that are even still around now and haven't PCS yet. One of them is my son's godmother. So, I mean, it was definitely an interesting time, but yeah, if you have experienced miscarriage, you're not alone. You can reach out to me anytime. Like, it's not your fault. Like that's probably the number one. And everybody's like, yeah, you know, it's not my fault. And like, but everybody blames themselves like 100%. Like it doesn't matter how many times the doctor says you could have done nothing different. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like everything you did, you question literally everything you did. So it's definitely a hard thing to go through.
And not to take away from your loss or experience, obviously, but it is nice to hear that even out of it, there was kind of a silver lining. You made a community and you had people around you that supported you. So at least there was something, I guess, good that came out of it, or at least a good experience, but it's never a good feeling. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. I tried to make the situations, you know, like obviously it was disheartening every time to hear those words, but if I didn't have those, I wouldn't have the kids I have now. So, I mean, like I take that with a grain like of salt. Like the initial loss was hard, but I have 3 healthy, amazing kids now. So, you know, I'm blessed. There's some people that no matter how hard they try IVF, they don't have that. So I take, you know, 100% that into account. And I'm grateful for, you know, having the kids I have.
Absolutely.
Yes. Real talk.
That's why we're here, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
And we thank you for sharing that, because we know a lot of our guests talk about all sorts of different things, and that's not always easy to talk about. And so we appreciate you going into that and letting other people know that they're not alone, because that's one of the main reasons we're here.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's a legitimate thing, pregnant, or then even after having the baby, like, you know, after my middle son was born, you know, that isolation of not having my family around. Because with my daughter, I had my family. Like I had grandma and grandpa to come help, and I could, you know, rest. And I didn't have that with my son. So another thing that's super real is postpartum depression. Like maybe I can touch on that. Like it was rough. Like, you know, you, after that, like euphoria of like, oh my gosh, I just had a baby and he's like the cutest thing in the whole wide world. Like you just feel isolated. Like my husband had 10 days off and then had to go straight back to work. And like, you know, the kids and I are stuck at home, and I didn't know anybody and I didn't have help, and I was exhausted. I had 2 kids, which going to 3 kids was actually not as hard as I thought. Like I thought, wow, if going to 2 was a lot, I was really worried for 3. Going to 3 was like, I already have this circus under control. Like I was good, but going from my daughter to 2, it was hard. And I don't necessarily know why. You know, everybody's experience is different, but postpartum hit me hard. It hit me really hard. And he was born September 22nd, 2017. And after November, like right around Thanksgiving, my family had come out, but I was depressed. And like, I look back on pictures and I'm like, I wish somebody had seen those signs, but like, I didn't verbalize it. Like there was no way to know. But when I went home for Christmas that year, we were going to go home for Christmas. Like I had a plan to kill myself. I did. And it was rough. Like I legitimately had it. Like I had it planned out. You know, we were going to be home near family. Like my husband would be fine. He'd be able to go back to work, you know, back in North Carolina. My kids could stay with me, like family. Like, I mean, it was rough. Like, and I went to my 6-week checkup towards the end. It was right after Thanksgiving, because, you know, holidays, like they were booked up. It was like the first part of December. And it was like a few weeks from going home. And my doctor like had me fill out the quiz, and like, you know, I naturally lied. It's like, are you depressed? Like, no, don't worry about me. Like, that's just ridiculous. Why would I honestly answer that? And, you know, but like, she could see that I wasn't okay. She's like, are you really okay? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, kept brushing off. She's like, no, really, like, look at me. Like, are you okay? And I was like, and I just started losing it. I was like, no, I'm not actually. She's like, what's going on? Like, talk to me. And I was like, this is what this is it. Like, I'm depressed. I'm overwhelmed. This is too much. I have no help. I was like, and I have a plan. I have a plan to end my life. And she's like, we need to address this like right now. Like, this is serious. We need to get you help. She wanted to admit me to the hospital. And I was like, please God, no. Like, I was a new military spouse. I was like, I don't want my husband having like the crazy wife, like all of those things, like immediately running into my head, like, don't worry about me. Like, I just told you like all these miserable things that I'm feeling, but like, I don't want my husband's career. Like, that's a thing. Like, I don't want to be a bad impression on my husband. So I was like, please don't. Like, I will do whatever else you want me to do. Please don't do that. So she started me on medicine. She's like, you need to go home and you need to talk to your husband. Does he know how you're feeling? And I was like, no, like, I literally told nobody. She's like, you need to go home. You need to talk to your husband. I'm getting a referral for counseling. You need to start these medicines. I want to see you next week. I want to see you every week. And I said, okay. So I did all these things. I went to therapy. And I started to feel better. Like, once I realized that I wasn't alone again, I wasn't alone, and this is normal because, it's so vilified. Like, oh, you have postpartum, like, get over yourself. What's to be depressed about? Like, you just had a baby. Why aren't you happy? And it's like, your body is going through so many changes. You just birthed an entire human.
Yeah.
Your hormones are off the wall. Like, you're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to feel the way you feel. You don't have to justify it to anybody, but you are still responsible to get help and feel better. Like, you don't have to feel that misery.
Absolutely.
So,
I went through it too, not quite to the extent that you did, but I definitely remember pushing my son in the stroller, walking around the neighborhood on Pendleton, like just bawling to my mom, just absolutely like uncontrollably bawling. And I had no idea why. I was like, I don't know. My mom's like, sweet Jesus, like, I'm coming. I'm coming.
I just have pictures of Aunt Judy in my mind.
Just stay where you are.
She's like, I'm coming. I will be there. I'm coming, but yeah, same thing. Like, you have to ask for help. I feel like postpartum in general is not talked about enough. Like, people don't tell you how much like recovery happens down there, how much bleeding happens. Like, nobody prepares you for any of that.
No, like, I felt confident because I was like, oh, I didn't have it with my daughter. So like, I'll be fine. But it hit me really hard the second time around. It really did. So like the third one after my son, like, I knew already, like, okay, I already had it last time. Like, look for the signs. Like, am I okay? So I was able to do those honest, like, mental checks and self-reflections with myself. I was like, I'm not there. I'm not extreme, but like, I do still feel isolated. Like, my husband left 3 weeks after Connor was born for another field op for 2 months. And it's like, yeah, like, and we were in the process of getting Jackson diagnosed. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to be proactive. So like, I started counseling and I was honest and I was like, you know what, I do need that help. Like, I do, because this is just too much. So
good for you.
You got to be honest. There's no award for taking it all on and doing it alone. So may as well ask for the help when you can.
Yeah. And mental health shouldn't have a stigma like we've talked about before. And the only consequence that's going to happen is you won't be here anymore. And it's not worth it.
No, me and my husband are trying, and now I'm just horrified. Actually, the whole process of like not getting pregnant, but being pregnant and then having something size of a watermelon come out is just terrifying. The whole process, I'm like, women do this and they do it multiple times. I don't know about this.
There's a lot of great things. I just wish people did talk about postpartum things more in general, like depression. And like I said, like the whole recovery process down there and how much it's not fun.
I saw some posts on Instagram for recovery, and I was like, I can't even read that. I can't even look at it. I will freak myself out, and I will definitely not have a baby, even if I want a baby.
I was not prepared to not be able to comfortably sit. Like,
yes.
Like, you can't comfortably sit for at least a good week. Like, you're trying to do this and nobody prepares you for that.
I wish social media can be such a curse sometimes. Cause you've got, what was it? Not Meghan Markle. Who's the other one?
Oh my God. I'm all blanking. We're all blanking. The princess. Come on, Connie. You're our last hope.
I don't know.
Whatever her name is.
Yes, I
can see her. Like, I can see her in my head.
I can see her too,
it's the other one. It's the other princess. Anyway.
Yeah, the other one. But like, after she gave birth, she's like out in a tight dress with heels and her makeup all done. Like, that's not normal. And that poor woman was uncomfortable. Like, she had to do it for like publicity purpose. there's no way she was comfortable because listen, like I was happy with like my granny panties with those giant pads they give you, like totally
Yes.
just like chilling and not doing anything because you were just exhausted. Like birth is exhausting. There is
It
no way that
sounds
poor woman
horrifying.
voluntarily did that.
Yes.
Oh no, it's perfect though. Like
Oh,
after you give birth, they put the baby on your chest, and it's like it's the most perfect thing in the whole world.
Ugh.
And they drive you crazy. Like my kids still drive me crazy. Like that doesn't ever go away, I don't think.
Oh, I know. It's just, it sounds horrifying, but I want the end product of a baby, so I'll do it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it still sounds horrible.
It's absolutely worth it. It's just we need to talk about the other things more.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
I have faith in you. You've got this.
There you go. See, Megan's putting the juju out there for you, Connie.
All of it.
Thanks. Yeah, actually, Megan, I don't know if you noticed, I was getting like a little teary-eyed because in March, I found out I was pregnant. In April, I lost the baby. So I was like, I feel you, girl.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I hate hearing other people. Like I know it's so common. They like give you the numbers like 1 in 4 or 1 in 8, and I'm just like, that's so heartbreaking. Like
I know
so many people I know have miscarriages, and the unfortunate part of being a decorator too, like this literally just happened not even a week ago. Like a lady reached out last month and was like, hey, I want to do a gender reveal. And I didn't hear from her. And like, I was supposed to make a cake on the 15th. And like, I like thought about it. I was like, oh God, what if something happened? But like, I also didn't want her to have like maybe forgotten. And like, I'm supposed to make a cake. So I reached out, I was like, hey, I'm just reaching out to see like, are we still good for the 15th? And she's like, I'm so sorry. Like, unfortunately, I lost the baby. I was like, oh God, please don't be sorry. Like, please don't be sorry. Like, this isn't a big deal for me. Like, are you okay? Like, what about you? Like the cake, like, forget the cake. Like, I can use the ingredients in any other like order. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, are you okay? But like, you know, it's so heartbreaking every time because like I relive it. And it's like, I know how I felt and how isolated I felt, but you know, everybody experiences it differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was actually in the hospital alone as well because my husband went to work. I left I work from home, so I messaged my boss. I'm like, I have to go to the ER, so I'll see you later.
Yeah.
I'll see you tomorrow. And then my husband's like, well, do you want me to leave work? And I was like, well, what's the point? Because at 6 weeks, there's nothing you can do. I'll see you in a few hours.
I mean, yeah,
I was like, there's no point. I'd rather you go make the money because the ER is going to cost something anyway. Ugh.
Yeah, and I think we actually were supposed to record the podcast too. So and she's like messaging me. She's like, I don't think we're gonna be doing the podcast. I'm like, don't even worry about it.
She was like, what? Because I never cancel any of the podcast episodes.
Yeah.
So she was like, she knew. She's like,
I knew.
What is going on?
Like what happened?
Yeah. I knew, but I wasn't gonna push because you know that people need to talk about things when they need to talk about things. So
yeah. So, you know.
It's going to happen for you. You're going to have your rainbow baby. I know it.
Yeah.
I'm putting it out there in the world.
Ooh.
I love it.
Hopefully. This is How to Deal When Shit Gets Real. Thank you, Megan, for joining us on our podcast. Remember, the episode comes out every Friday. Don't forget to rate and review us and check us out on all of our socials.